A Pervert's Dark Confession, Part 1. Don't forget to click the like and subscribe button. Allow me to preface this by saying that I am aware that throwaways are discouraged, but this is too embarrassing for me to associate with my already anonymous primary, but I need to get this out. For far too long I've been living in shame, and it has been the time to stop. I am hoping that by putting this out there, even though anonymous, this will have instilled enough shame knowing that there are real people out there that know my dirty secrets. So here it goes. I am a huge pervert. For 10 years, I have been living in shame with my prepubescent self and what my current self will sometimes occasionally feel. This very deep and very dark issue I have centered around my sister and actually goes back far as long as I can remember. It is sexual in nature, but my actions predates before I had the slightest thinking of what sexuality was. So I guess I'll start at the beginning. I do not have a lot of early childhood memories. A lot of people I have encountered in everyday life seem to have a very much deeper remembering of their childhood than I. Many seem to remember as far back as 2 years old, and my sister-in-law claims to have a memory going back to 1 year old, but I call BS on that one. Anyway, most of my early childhood memories is around when I'm in kindergarten. I have a very few fragments of memory here and there, such as throwing up in a trash can and being very embarrassed, not understanding why my teacher was so upset about the classmate that spent an extra 10 minutes after recess picking dandelions for her. My first girlfriend of all this are split-second snapshots. There is, however, one involving my sister that I remember clear as day. In our kindergarten class, some days at the class would get out. There is, however, one involving my sister that I remember clear as day. In our kindergarten class, some days the class would get out as at noon. I have no idea why, but that was just something that was in a part of our schedule. I believe it was every Friday, but it is rather inconsequential, so I won't spend so much time on it. That day of this memory have to be one of those half days for me, as my memory starts with us picking her up from school after the rest of the grades let out. I was eating my half peanut butter and jelly sandwich snacks that I decided to eat in the car. On a side note, I would like to keep my sandwich in the Ziploc bag and press it so thin so that the bread will get as much and take on the jelly flavor. My sister climbs in the back of our red van. She was an amazing gymnast and had to be somewhere for something or other, and my mother was in a hurry. I look back to show what I had done with my sandwich, thinking it was one of the more amazing things I had done with my life up to the point that I saw her stripping down bunk naked and changing into her white and purple leotard. She was only 2 grades ahead of me. So it was not as if she had developed much, and she used her hands to cover her lower parts. But I was mesmerized by this. I don't know if it was out of the oddity of the situation or if there was a deep-seated feelings way back then, but I couldn't take my eyes off the situation until my mom got my attention again. My memory ended at this. Fast forward a year or two, and our family was at the height of our prosperity. My father was in the midst of a non-violent crime that we had no knowledge of. I was making quite a bit of money from this. He was self-employed, so I didn't think anything of it. To be honest, I was still young enough, probably 7 or 8, and I didn't have a full understanding of money yet. One spring, we decided to put in an above-ground pool for the summer. This above-ground pool was just a simple trashy-looking blue oval, but a really cool deck was built around it. I remember filling up the pool with a garden hose and the disappointment I experienced when I realized how long it was going to take to fill it. Fast forward to what I think it's a month or so. It is summer vacation and we have a family friend acting as our baby sister. My mom still worked, as she hated being a housewife, so she would leave around 7 in the morning. Oftentimes, the babysitter would take a quick little snooze on the reclining chair before we really got up and moving. We weren't really bad kids at all, but we're still young to be spending all day by ourselves in a rural town, USA. We didn't really have friends nearby as we're on the edge of our school district, and our closest neighbor was about a half a mile away. One day, my sister and I was playing in the pool together, as we pretty much did every day. We did the usual games like Marco Polo, seeing how long we could keep a ball in the air or out of the water while it's hitting it back and forth, breath holding, breath holding competition, and so on. This was our typical everyday behavior. One day, however, while my sister and I were splashing and dunking each other, I moved behind her and held onto her as if hugging her from behind to do a suplex type dunk when I felt a very odd sensation in my penis. It felt very fluttery and became enlarged and felt very sensitive. Obviously, this is an erection, but 6 or 7 years old me didn't have the concept of erection introduced to him yet. When I picked her up to dunk her down, my hard penis rubbed against the small of her lower back. It felt very good and I wanted to do it again, so I did. This time a little extra while suspending her in the air to have a little more of her weight resting on it. This felt better. I don't think she knew what was going on, although I can't imagine she didn't feel my little prepubescent boner rubbing against her. She got up and dried off, changed radio station and started tanning. I made chicken fingers and went on with our day. We behaved as if nothing had happened, but in reality, I think we were just too young to understand what just happened. I did do this exact same thing on several others isolated occasions. However, it wasn't until I discovered one of my father's VS pornos later. An interesting side note, in one of the videos, a man is pleasuring himself. I mimicked this action and of course, it really felt good. I kept doing this and it helped feeling better until I had an orgasm. I was too young for any semen to develop, but this unsuspecting shock and surprise that came out made me avoid orgasm for the first few years I would masturbate. I would go right up onto the brink of it and then just stop. I was probably the youngest member of the tantric sex club and I did it all unintentionally. Fast forward to the next summer, it is her birthday and she's having a sleepover party. There is about 6 girls she had over and my mom would always let me have one of my buddies come over and keep me company. It was early in the evening, I'm guessing around 10 as the sun had fully set and was dark out. We are doing our thing upstairs and the girls are playing outside in the pool or on the trampoline. My friend gets the idea to spy on them, so we snuck out. I remember the rush I got from breaking the only rule of leave us alone, a big sister and her friend would tell her dweeby little brother. We saw them all around the trampoline, some laying down as others would try and bounce them higher and higher. I knew what to do. We went downstairs and snuck through the garage. And we watched through the small holes in the lattice that formed the lower deck wall. We were completely hidden. My heart was beating very rapid. I quickly and quietly held it in and kid you not, after about 30 seconds of being down there, one of my sister friends took her top off. They were still very young, very undeveloped girls, so there wasn't much, but I remember actually seeing a little burden of breast. Another girl take her top off, another soon. Bottoms and tops are all coming off as everybody was shirtless and bottomless. We had 7 preteen girls completely naked jumping on and above the trampoline. My friend's lower jaw drops, completely overstimulated by the confusion of what is going on. I found my sister. She's on the ground and is jumping up and down and still very look at her body. Instead, I look at her face and all I can see is confusion and unwillingness on her expression. I can tell she doesn't want to do this, but doesn't want to be the odd person out. All I could feel was sadness for her, and I had to feign happiness to my friends. This was my first experience with peer pressure, and I think it's a major factor in why I never tried drugs and alcohol until I was ready to experience them for myself. Shortly after this, when things started getting a little weirder for me, I was becoming a little more in tune with my sexual surroundings, but I was by no means mature. I was probably 11 in this time with my sister 13. We were school shopping as we'd always do before class started. This time, however, there was a new twist on things. My mother takes us into the girls' clothes department. No big deal for me. I've been dragged there many times. We got into the underwear department and I felt a little awkward about it. But again, I've been there so many times, so I just behave like any grown man behaves in Victoria's Secret. Instead of the usual underwear, like the underwear I wear, my mom and my sister started looking at bras. I had seen my mothers in them a lot of times and never really gave them much thought until I saw my sister holding one up and examining it. I had never really looked at her any other way other than my older sister. Until this point, even with the previous events happening. They were all innocent and honestly beyond my control. I didn't know they were weird until reflecting on them. My sister selected a bra, we buy our item and we head home. I had trouble sleeping that night. I remember it being 2:30 in the morning and it was one of those hot sticky nights that I couldn't get comfortable in. The fan by my bed did nothing. I decided to get up and get a glass of water. Our home had wood flooring that creaked and all our bedrooms were by each other. Whenever I would leave at night, I would step very lightly and avoided all the creaky areas as not to wake everybody out of consideration. As I exit my room, I looked into my sister adjacent bedroom. She was always a very sound sleeper. I once put her entire hands in a glass of water trying to mimic something I saw on TV and it didn't even faze her. I see her bag of clothes on the floor by her bed. I walked in very quietly and took it. I took it to my room, quietly shut the door and turned on the light. I found her bra and I'm looking at it. I examined it from side to side and I became very aroused, uncomfortable in my tight shorts. I took them off and holding my sister bra fully aroused. I don't know what made me do this, but I reached in the bag again and looking. I didn't really see anything else interesting to me, but upon shifting the closet in the bag, I feel soft. After a little shuffling, I found her pants. They were a little shining and were bright pink. I pulled them on and they were awesomely comfortable. I lay down in bed and turned off the light. I looked at the ceiling and would examine the shadow formed from the moon through my window, all while gently caressing my erection through my sister's underwear. I took them off after a little while, put everything back in the bag, and quietly put them back in her room. I went back in my bed and quickly fell asleep. I felt a little shame in the morning, but this feeling was overcome by another feeling, the feeling of how good her underwear felt on me. Through the next week, I would go into her room at night and rifle through her underwear drawer, trying out a new pair each time. One time I found a pair that she didn't put in the laundry hamper and decided to wear a dirty pair of her underwear. I felt more close to her. I did this for several more days and eventually just stopped. Like and subscribe for part 2.